Testing, 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 testing. I think it should be all right. Alrighty. We're just gonna be waiting here for just a little bit, about 5 minutes. Get some people to start popping in. Hopefully everyone can hear me pretty clearly. Basically, this is just a quick little testing session here. I'd like to make sure everything's working properly before we start, which I think it is. I was actually supposed to do this yesterday, but I had some things come up and unfortunately time just kind of got away from me. Life happens. Alright, let's see. Oh, let me actually, yeah, let me actually do something else. Here we go. Let me retry that. If anybody is in there, please let me know if you can hear me clearly. Just doing some tests here before we go ahead and begin. I know a lot of people have been talking about the September broadcast, so I kind of wanted to watch it myself. I don't really know anything about it. I don't know what's going on with it. I didn't look up anything. So this is going to be my first experience with it. Good morning. Hey, Robin, how's it going? Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Okay, and there we go. All right, let's go ahead and just start. We'll start.
We extend a warm welcome to all of you. We're so happy to have you join us for this month's broadcast. Here's a little sample of what will be contained in our program. Proverbs 3:5 tells us to trust in Jehovah with all our heart. We'll see how three brothers facing different challenges overcame them by trusting in Jehovah completely. Though personal attacks may start small, being bullied can quickly make you feel alone and worthless, wondering, why me? In this month's My Teen Life, we'll hear how Charlie and Farron learned to cope with bullies and grew stronger and more confident as a result. And in a new dramatization, we'll reconnect with two dear friends.
I heard they brought them back.
Jade, and see how they remain loyal when confronted with false reports about the truth.
False reports, you
there's
say?
Much to look forward to in this September 2022 edition of JW Broadcasting. The theme for this program is, as Jehovah's sheep reject the voice of strangers. It's estimated that there may be 15 million animal species on Earth today. But of all these animals, which one is most often used in the Bible to represent good people? Sheep. Jesus often used this illustration. Here are three examples. First, to his 12 apostles, he said at Matthew 10:16, I am sending you out as sheep among wolves. Second, regarding what he'll do shortly before Armageddon, he said at Matthew 25:32 and 33 that he will separate people one from another, just as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. In subsequent verses, he describes how the sheep will inherit everlasting life, but the goats will depart into everlasting destruction. Our third example, Jesus said at John 10:16, I have other sheep which are not of this fold. Those too I must bring in, and they will listen to my voice, and they will become one flock, one shepherd. But a question arises, why did Jesus use a sheep illustration to represent people who will gain everlasting life? Undoubtedly, because of the desirable qualities literal sheep have. They're gregarious, having a liking for companionship. They don't like to be alone. And it's a good thing, because without the flock and the protection of the shepherd, they're defenseless if a lion or bear approaches. About all they can do is bleat, bah.
All right. I don't really like I've never really liked being compared to a sheep when I was in the organization, because I felt like sheep, of course we're supposed to look at Jesus as a shepherd, and he's supposed to give us protection and everything, but the issue with sheep is that, like he said, they're just defenseless. They can't do anything. But in truth, like reality, because we're people and we can think and actually be able to have some type of action on our own, being a sheep is not really a good thing. Sheep can't think like human beings can. So when you're trying to be compared to a sheep, it's almost like, yeah, you're not that smart. You're kind of naive. You can't defend yourself. You can't think for yourself. That's not really that good. You don't want to be compared to a sheep. I think the only reason why Jesus even came up with that illustration is just to show that he's the shepherd. You look to him for direction. That's it. But everything else, I don't really think actually fits too well. It's just my own personal opinion, though.
Little sheep.
But I think that he shouldn't like try to do that boss sound again.
Another good quality is that sheep as a whole tend to be peaceful, inoffensive, very different from goats. As little boys, my brother and I would pet the goats that my grandfather had. But if we turned our backs on them, one would often sneak up behind us and butt us for no reason. These are some of the desirable characteristics that make sheep an appropriate illustration for good people. But the quality we especially want to focus on is identified at John chapter 10, verses 4 and 5. When he, that is the shepherd, has brought all his own out, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers. So what's the desirable quality? Sheep listen to the voice of their shepherd and reject the voice of strangers. Regarding this quality of sheep, the September 1st, 2004 Watchtower said this: "A book on Bible lands relates that a visitor once claimed that sheep recognize their shepherd by his dress, not his voice. A shepherd answered that it was the voice they knew. To prove this, he exchanged clothing with a stranger. Dressed in the shepherd's garb, the stranger called the sheep, but they did not respond. They did not know his voice. Yet when the shepherd called them, though he was disguised, the sheep came at once." Please ask yourself, as one of Jehovah's figurative sheep, do I obediently respond to the voice of the fine shepherd and flee from the voice of strangers? Well, let's talk about this. The original stranger was Satan the devil. Like a ventriloquist, he made a serpent appear to talk, but the words were Satan's words. Satan thereby used his voice to slander Jehovah and deceive Eve. Today, Satan continues his work as an evil ventriloquist, using not serpents, but human puppets to enunciate his voice, these acting as his agents, either wittingly or unwittingly.
So I guess he's saying that what's there? Looks like politicians, church leaders, yeah, so forth. Basically, they're being used as puppets. I think I remember them saying something about not directly saying that people in positions of power are being led by Satan or something along those lines. Maybe I'm not thinking of it correctly. I do remember them saying something like that, where you don't want to say that one person in particular who's like a church leader or a politician is being led directly by Satan, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. But it is kind of funny that they bring up this picture and it has politicians, church leaders, and whatever else basically being led and misled by Satan, as it's depicted here. And what's going on that right side there? I guess it's just like famine, death, and so forth. Okay. Yeah.
But now let's discuss 3 examples of how our fine shepherd tells us one thing, but Satan's underlings or strangers tell us something opposite. We must be vigilant to listen to the right voice. Our fine shepherd tells us, as our first example, these words at Matthew chapter 24, verses 45 through 47. "Who really is the faithful and discreet slave whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them their food at the proper time? Happy is that slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. Truly I say to you, he will appoint him over all his belongings." We know the Master Jesus found the faithful and discreet slave spiritually feeding right-hearted ones in 1919, and at a future time will appoint him over all his belongings. So what's the implication? Obviously, even now, Jesus fully trusts the faithful slave. And all of us, even individual members of the governing body, should do the same. But what does the voice of strangers say on this subject? Don't trust the faithful slave. He will mislead you. And who often have the loudest voice promoting this false message? Apostates. Hebrews 13:9 labels false messages as strange teachings. Yes, they are the teachings of strangers. Some examples of their strange teachings are that the faithful slave protects pedophiles.
Oh.
Or that slave will exploit you. So
Hold on. Let's go back.
Apostates.
Okay.
Hebrews
One
13:9
moment.
But what does the voice of strangers say on this subject?
Oh, man.
Don't trust the faithful slave. He will mislead you. And who often have the loudest voice promoting this false message? Apostates. Hebrews
We sure do.
13:9 labels false messages as strange teachings. Yes.
Okay. I have one question, though, Stephen. How do you determine if a message is false or if it's true? The easiest way is to look at all the facts presented. That's the only way you can determine if a message is false or true. Otherwise, I'm just taking your word just because I feel more comfortable taking your word than the other person's word. But that's not based on facts. It's not based on logic. All it is literally just, I would rather listen to you than anybody else. And I feel comfortable listening to you, and I've listened to you so far, so I think I'll just go ahead and take your word for it. But that's not a good way to do things. Not a good way. Because someone could still lie to you, even after they've been truthful to you for many times in the past. That's the thing we're getting at. And this is one of the things about the organization that they do. They'll be truthful about a lot of things in teachings. Hey, Gene, how's it going? Yeah, you came here at the right time. Organization will be truthful about a lot of things. In the Bible, they'll go over certain scriptures, and yeah, what they're saying from the scriptures and how it's supposed to be applied in the context, it is truthful. And they'll start off with that stuff. They'll start off with the very basic things to get you comfortable, to show that what they're saying is true. But then afterwards, they'll start pushing in their doctrine and what they feel, how they interpret certain scriptures. And some of that stuff, from what I've been researching, I've researched all of it, is untrue. And then you have to either discern that by looking at other information, but by the time you get that deep into it, you trust them because they've come up with information first that was, oh, this is definitely true, so you just feel compelled to trust the rest of it. It's like they condition you. That's exactly what it is. They condition you to get comfortable trusting the first information, so that the rest of the information that comes from them, well, if the rest of it was true, this has to be true. That's literally what it is. The only way to discern if something is true or if it's false is to research it. They never encourage you to research anything the apostates say. Never, ever. Why? Because they know that the apostates have facts and proof on their side. We could research everything. Every single thing that Mr. Led is saying over here. And for whatever reason, he doesn't want to look into it. None of them do. For good reason. For good reason, actually. Because they know what the apostates are saying is actually true.
They are the teachings of strangers. Some examples of their strange teachings are that the faithful slave protects pedophiles.
That's
Or
true.
that slave will exploit you so they can live lives of luxury.
That's kind of
Those
true,
are
too.
both bald-faced lies.
I don't know ask Mr. Morris about that drinking problem he has, drinking that Macallan or whatever it was. That's some pretty expensive
Acts
liquor.
20:30 says that apostates speak twisted things. They do this in order to draw God's sheep away and make them followers of themselves. Something that's twisted.
Okay, I got to comment on that too. They always say that we're trying to make followers for ourselves. I guess, yeah, on YouTube, I try to get people to like subscribe and like the video and whatever. But I'm not going to go out there and start preaching and like coming up with my own doctrine and start, baptizing people. That's not what we're doing here. All we're doing is just giving information, an opposing view of what the organization is saying. That's it. I'm not, like I said, I'm not baptizing anybody. I'm not trying to go ahead and coerce them to come to my own kingdom hall that I've created. That's not our plan. So I don't know why they keep saying that we're trying to make followers for ourselves. It's not like we're trying to mislead people and bring them to, I don't know, a certain place and make our own little cult. It's not a thing. But yet they continue to say this. That's been a thing since I've been in, since the beginning. They've always said that they're trying to just amass more followers, and I'm wondering, like, where are all the apostate followers going to? Like, is there a religion I don't know about? Because I've never heard of it. I don't know what it is.
They're out of shape or distorted. They speak twisted things by leaving out vital details.
Okay, he's leaving out vital details because he's literally just said twisted things twice. What twisted things? What are they saying? What are they saying exactly? Like, what are we talking about here? You said that you guys hide pedophiles. Is that true or no? Why is that not true? And why are they even saying that? Let's look at all the facts. Why don't they do a JW broadcasting on that, where they look at all the facts presented and show us this is why it's a lie? I would love for them to do that. That'd be the best thing in the world, because I know they'd just be stumbling and bumbling over all the information, and then they would pick out snippets and cherry pick all the information to show that, oh yeah, see, that's why it's a lie. I mean, they already do that now with the rest of the information, especially with 1914.
Taking things out of context, or in some other way manipulating a truth into a lie, or into a misleading half-truth.
How do we do that?
2 Peter 2:3 says, they will greedily exploit you with counterfeit words. A counterfeit is something that's carefully designed to look like the real thing. Take, for example, counterfeit money. It might look genuine, but it's fake and thus worthless.
It's funny that they bring up money, because I'm sure that they know what counterfeit money looks like. These guys are so great at getting money that's like their primary concern. That's why he was like, well, take for instance counterfeit money. We know money. I know you do, Mr. Lett. I know you know money very, very well. You guys make so much money off of all the other witnesses there. Not only just money, but just labor. You guys have all your kingdom halls being built, and they're basically just like properties that you own. It's a real estate company along with being a publishing company. You guys know a lot about money.
If we're deceived into accepting it, we'll lose money. But if we're deceived into accepting the counterfeit words of apostates, we'll lose our life. And apostates will give us absolutely nothing of value in exchange.
How do you know that? What are they saying?
Really needing a loving shepherding visit and asking apostates to give you one?
That'd be a loving, I promise you right now, if somebody asked for a shepherding visit and some apostates came instead, I think they would actually get more benefit from that than whatever the elders would give them. Because at least the apostates would be very honest with the person and genuinely try to help them with what they're going through. Most shepherding visits, what do? They come to your house. They figuratively grease you with oil by going over a few scriptures here and there saying, hey, so, I know you've been having this issue and tell us about it. And then they look up a scripture and say, and this is why Jehovah cares for us. and we know that Jesus feels this way and blah, blah, blah. But it actually doesn't help. It doesn't help solve the problem. It's just trying to put a Band-Aid over a wound. So I don't think that the elders actually would help out that much. I'd rather have the apostates come over to my house.
We must be careful about believing everything presented in the media about Jehovah's organization.
No, I agree with that. I don't think that you should believe everything that's negative just because, it's negative about the Jehovah's Witnesses. I think that everyone should have the ability to look at the information. That's what I think. See, I feel like, Stephen's thinking that every negative thing we take as fact, which that's not the case. I mean, a lot of apostates are very good at researching things. So just because it's a negative thing about witnesses doesn't mean we all just start believing it. That's not a thing. We're not a hive mind. We're not like the organization. We are individuals who are against the practices of the organization and what they do that's wrong. That's what we're doing here. And it's not even like it's a we. It was just like, well, we all got kicked out, essentially. And everybody started looking at things and started questioning things, and everyone's just bouncing off ideas. But it's not an actual organization. We're not together. There's not a league of apostates or anything. So he makes it seem like everyone's on the same team here when it comes to apostates, which that's not the case. But also, like he said, you don't want to believe everything. That's not a good way to go about anything. Just because you heard it and you might not like an organization or an individual, just because you hear something negative doesn't mean you should immediately believe it just because you don't like that person. I don't think that's a good way to go about it.
Remember, the media is commonly motivated by prejudice, hatred, and a desire for profit.
He's not wrong.
And exaggerated news reports are very common.
It's true.
For example, in one European country, many people were indignant when an emotional press report stated that a young female witness died because she refused a blood transfusion.
Now, this is going into the territory of, if you actually look up information on this, you can see that she did die because she didn't accept the blood transfusion. And there's been multiple accounts of this in the past. It's happened a lot of times where people did die, children even, because they didn't accept the blood transfusion.
Those the complete facts? No. The patient refused a blood transfusion on religious grounds, but she did agree to alternative non-blood medical methods.
So she didn't get the blood transfusion because you guys, the 8 governing body members, said don't get blood transfusions. But if she did, she would be alive. He basically, hold on, let's go back.
Motivated by prejudice, hatred, and a desire for profit. False and exaggerated news reports are very common. For example, in one European country, many people were indignant when an emotional press report stated that a young female witness died because she refused a blood transfusion.
Okay, so that is true. She died because she did refuse a blood transfusion. Now, blood would actually have saved her life. There's a higher chance that it would have saved her life instead of using the alternative methods. See, that's the thing he's not understanding.
Were those the complete facts?
It was, yes.
No.
Those are the complete facts.
The patient refused a blood transfusion on religious grounds.
Nope, because you guys told her not to. You guys told her not to, so she didn't take the blood when she could have taken the blood, and she would have survived.
But she did agree to alternative non-blood medical management.
I gotta keep Stephen in line here.
This could have been implemented immediately and likely would have saved her life. However, the hospital delayed matters unnecessarily until it was too late.
Well, how do you know that? Well, pull up the article for me, Stephen. You have that article there? I actually want to see the article. Let me see if I can find it.
Report didn't mention these facts.
Didn't mention these facts? Okay. Let me see. Can I find that? I wonder if this is a recent thing, or is he just like talking about something that happened in the past? I hate the fact that he doesn't give us more information. He just says like, they do this a lot. They only go over briefly of what they're talking about, but they don't give you actual details so that you can find out yourself. You just have to take their word for it. Let me see. Let me see if this is it. I doubt it, but jeez, there's so many ads everywhere. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Well, I'm sure I can find it.
While it's
We're not going to worry about it.
unreasonable to distrust all secular sources of information, we must be wary. 1 John 5:19 says, "The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one." Now, let's discuss a second example of the voice of our fine shepherd Jesus. Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 and 28. Jesus said, "You heard that it was said, 'You must not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone who keeps on looking at a woman so as to have a passion for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Our fine shepherd is telling us not only to avoid sexual immorality, but also to flee from anything that could lead to it, such as immoral thoughts. And at Matthew 19:9, our fine shepherd tells us, "I say to you that whoever divorces his wife except on the grounds of sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery." Here Jesus makes clear that the only valid basis for divorce and remarriage in God's eyes is if a disloyal mate commits sexual immorality. But what's the voice of strangers of Satan's world telling us regarding divorce, adultery, and other forms of sexual immorality? No problem. It's your choice. You have the freedom to do what you want.
This is a big problem, especially in the organization too, because what he just said is not good. The only reason why you should be able to have a divorce is because of sexual immorality. But what about if a spouse is taking advantage of somebody, or the other spouse, or if they're harming them physically, or destroying their mental health? All those little things come into play. And if the person doesn't feel safe there, why should they continue to be married to somebody that they don't even feel safe around? It doesn't make any sense. So if that's the only reason, that's really messed up, because there's tons of other reasons as to why people should be able to get divorced from their mate. That's horrible reasoning there, just that only one reason.
In fact, in order to make sexual immorality appear more innocent, it's often euphemized. Sexual perversion, such as homosexuality, is called an alternative lifestyle. One so-called expert said, "It's simply like being left-handed." Pornography is called adult entertainment. Adulterous betrayal of one's marriage mate is called having an affair. Many call getting married old-fashioned and see nothing wrong with living together without marriage. And this world's media is very skillful at presenting something bad as good. For example, in a movie, a female character might be portrayed as having a husband who is abusive. You like the woman, and you want her to find happiness. Then a handsome man starts working in her office, and he's so nice to her. There's an attraction between them, and the budding romance is presented as something good. Soft background music makes it hard to consider her course to be bad. It's easy to keep watching and hope she leaves her marriage mate and runs off with her workmate.
Well, I mean, didn't you say that he was like bad or something?
Getting married old-fashioned and see nothing wrong with living together without marriage. And this world's media is very skillful at presenting something bad as good. For example, in a movie, a female character might be portrayed as having a husband who is abusive.
Okay, there you go. Husband is abusive. So then she wants to leave him. Now, obviously, I mean, you should get divorced first, but people make their own decisions. I'm not here to judge people when they make their own decisions. I think that you should just get divorced first, but at the same time, if the husband's abusive, who knows what's going to happen if she tries to get a divorce. She's going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff before she even leaves that house, and it's not a good situation to be in.
You like the woman, and you want her to find happiness. Then a handsome man starts working in her office, and he's so nice to her. There's an attraction between them, and the budding romance is presented as something good.
Hey dogs, how's it going? He actually did mention pedos earlier. He mentioned it a little bit. He was trying to say that apparently there's a lot of people, apostates, who give false information that there are pedophiles in the organization. He was saying that that's false, but he didn't go in depth with it. He just kind of said it was false and then moved on. They don't want to talk about that too much.
Soft background music makes it hard to consider.
How's it going? Good morning. Thank you for dropping in. Thank you everybody for stopping by the way.
It's easy to keep watching and hope she leaves her marriage mate and runs off with her workmate.
I really hope she does, because the guy's
usually
abusive.
That's what happens.
Yeah, but the husband was abusive.
We can forget that Jehovah and Jesus hate adultery and unscriptural divorce.
But does he hate abuse of people who are in marriage? And that goes for men and women, because there's men, who abuse women in marriage, and there's also women who abuse their men in marriage.
Reject the voice of this world and listen to the voice
No
of
problem,
Jehovah
dogs.
and Jesus. We bring protection and blessings to ourselves and others. But now, our third example of the voice of our fine shepherd is at Matthew chapter 6, and we're going to read verses 19 and 20. Stop storing up for yourselves treasures on the earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. Rather, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. We're told that our focus should be on spiritual things and not on physical things. And this is especially true when thinking about where we are in the stream of time, in the final part of the last day.
Oh, good gosh. He's the only one who says that. The last days of the last days of the last days. Now he's saying the final part of the last days. So we're getting mighty close to that 1975 ordeal. We're getting mighty close to it. Just saying. It's like we're borderline there. We're right on the cliff, on the cusp. Next thing you know, they're going to say stay alive to 75 or whatever it might be. We're getting really close to it.
But what's the voice of strangers of this world on this subject? Exert yourself vigorously to acquire material possessions. Pursue things that will make your life comfortable because that is what will bring you happiness. The question is,
Oh, to comment on that, I have noticed something like that where it seems like a lot of the sisters in the congregation who are married to men who weren't in the congregation or in the organization at all, they did seem like they enjoyed having that because the organization was like their little small thing that they did by themselves, and then they went back home to their husbands and so forth. And the husbands didn't mind because I mean, I guess they were happy with their wives and how they're acting and whatnot. So it was like a win-win almost. And also too, you don't have to deal with all the overhead stuff. So if your husband became like a ministerial servant or had duties and stuff, obviously it's a little bit more annoying than just going to the organization meetings or assemblies and then just going home afterwards. So I've noticed that too. From what I've seen, it does seem to be the case. Plus, since the guys aren't pursuing kingdom interests, they're more likely to be working on getting like better jobs and securing a future for themselves and their children and families. So in effort of doing that, they have more finances to do other things with their lives, which, I mean, nowadays you kind of need money. So that helps a ton, and that relieves a lot of stress. I've seen a lot of people who are in the organization, though, where both the husband and the wife are, in it. And many times it seems like they're having a very rough time. They're having a hard time because they have to make all the sacrifices. They can't work as much, the whole deal. They're not happy because they're technically living paycheck to paycheck, and it's hard to do that. So that causes a lot of issues, which I don't know why they never ever address it in the organization. But then again, I guess the reason why is because they don't want you to pursue making money or being able to support yourself, because when you're able to support yourself, you don't have to rely on anybody for any type of assistance, whether that assistance is financially or just mentally, because the organization does provide some mental help for people in a way, then you don't have to go to the organization. You don't have to go to Kingdom Hall anymore. They don't want people doing that. They don't want you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. They want you to rely on them. They want you to use them as a support system so that you never leave. And that's their trick. They get you hooked. It's like a drug, and then you keep coming back.
to whom are we listening? Jehovah and Jesus tell us to be content now with a spiritual paradise.
But also, side note, that's exactly why they go into a lot of low-income neighborhoods to find people who are interested in the message. They need to find people who don't have a large support system or a lot of finances, so that they can get those people to come in, since they know that they're kind of down on their luck, so to speak.
And to concentrate on our life-saving preaching work. And that they will provide a physical paradise later. 1 Peter 2:11 indicates that we should view ourselves as temporary residents who are just passing through this old system and headed for the real life in the new world. What do we mean by temporary resident? Well, imagine that you rent an old house to live in while a new, beautiful house is being built for you. You'll live there only a few months. Would you install a new concrete driveway? Would you put in new electrical wiring and plumbing? Would you install brand new vinyl siding? No. You might do a few cosmetic things to make your stay a little more comfortable, but you wouldn't do anything major.
Let's go back.
Real life in the new world. What do we mean by temporary resident? Well, imagine that you rent an old house to live in while a new, beautiful house is being built for you. You'll live there only a few months.
Okay, I'm going to stop him right there. You see what he just said. You live there only a few months. You know the time. You know the time, how long you're going to be staying in that house. You know it's only going to be a few months. It's not going to be a year. You're not going to actually just end up staying there for 2 years. No, you know for a fact it's only going to be a few months. So, of course, there's no reason to start making that house very nice when your new house is going to be available for you in a few months. Not a year, a few months. There's no reason to start renovating that other house. But him trying to draw a comparison between that and being an organization and, you know, getting to Paradise Earth and whatever, that's not the same, because we don't know how long it's going to be. We never know. Nobody knows. And even though he keeps saying it's the last days, the last days, the last days, he doesn't even know. He's making up stuff. He doesn't know. Nobody knows. Nobody even knows what's going to come. All we know is that, well, I mean, this book says that. So hopefully it does, because that's what you want. But truthfully, nobody knows anything. So him saying this and drawing that comparison doesn't make any sense. A few months in a house, knowing that you're only going to be there for a few months, is not equivalent to however much time it might take before Armageddon gets here. Imagine him saying this back in 1914 or back in 1973 or 74. I mean, any of those dates close to whenever they started talking about Armageddon's almost here. Oh, it's only a few months. Why would you go ahead and start renovating and keeping up with all the things down here in Earth and trying to build up storehouses for yourself and all that, when you know that the new house is being built for you? And then the date goes by. It's 1975. Everyone's excited. Then 1976 comes. Then 1977. 1978. And obviously the date didn't come. And you're sitting there like, dude, I could have went to school. I could have got that promotion at the job. I could have done such and such. I could have built up some type of trust fund for my children. All those things you could have done, and that was all wasted. All those years, all that time, because you don't know when it's actually coming. It's not the same as being in a house that you're only going to stay there for a few months. It's not the same.
Would you install a new concrete driveway? Would you put in new electrical wiring and plumbing? Would you install brand new vinyl siding? No. You might do a few cosmetic things to make your stay a little more comfortable, but you wouldn't do anything major. Why? Because you know you're just a temporary resident, and that soon you'll move into your beautiful new home. Well, if we think of ourselves just as temporary residents in this old system, it'll be a real protection against the materialism that is promoted by the voice of strangers.
I can see this working if we knew how much time was left. But because you don't know, like I said before, you don't know. You really don't. So you can't use this illustration. It doesn't work.
We've now discussed 3 examples of Jesus' voice. Number 1, trust the faithful and discreet slave.
That's got to be number 1. That's got to be number 1. That's the most important one. You have to trust them. You have to listen to everything they say.
2, reject sexual immorality.
Good morning, Mary.
And
Welcome in.
unscriptural divorce. 3, focus on storing up spiritual treasures rather than material treasures. Of course, there are...
Okay, I'm going to also make a counterpoint to what Mr. Stephen Led has said. He says that why would we keep building up things on Earth when we know that soon we're going to be in Paradise Earth, right? Why do they keep building new departments in Bethel? Why do they keep building new warehouses and other buildings for videos and broadcasting equipment and movies and stuff like that, if they know? I mean, he keeps saying it. The last days of the last days of the last days. The final part of the last day. He keeps saying it. I mean, obviously he must believe it. So why is he and his 7 friends up there in Bethel still building new things? I mean, technically, isn't that kind of also similar to building like a whole bunch of storehouses here on the earth? Now, he might argue, oh, okay, well, I mean, it's for Jehovah's organization. Yeah, but still, the same thing applies. Why can't you just use whatever you have right now and not spend extra money on those things when it's not going to be here afterwards? I don't know, Mr. Let.
These 2 different voices. But may we all be vigilant to listen to the right voice of Jesus. Jehovah himself said, "This is my son,
Hey,
the
Jerry.
beloved, whom I have approved. Listen to him."
Don't put money in your house and into organization. That's what they want. That's what they want you to do. And yeah, very true, dogs. At least you're paying for your own home. At least you're putting money into your own home instead of like another one. But yeah.
But in order to do so obediently as Jehovah's sheep, we must reject the voice of strangers. But how
okay, I have a counter argument to that too. Now, I'm able to come up with these illustrations because I've been in the organization for 20 something years, and that's the only way I get my point across. I do this in real life too, but then again, it's very effective to use illustrations, especially if they apply. So he says, don't listen to strangers. They've used this illustration before about somebody being in like a burning house or something, and someone calls out to you, and you don't know the house is on fire yet. Someone calls out to you and says, hey, your house is on fire, and you try to get them out of there. It's like trying to bring them into the truth. That's how the illustration I've heard when I was in the truth has been used. And then apparently the person comes out, and then they listen to you, but you're a stranger to them, yet they listen to you, and you were right. Likewise, we're strangers. However, I mean, of course, we're technically, in quotations, apostates, even though they try to use that word as, a bad connotation. We're talking to Jehovah's Witnesses, and we're telling them the house is on fire. Something's not right about the house. You need to get out. Yet they don't want to listen to us because we're a stranger. But we are right because we can see the house is on fire. They just don't know it yet. So really, you shouldn't listen to strangers. I don't think that that's a good way to go about it. You have to look and see for yourself if what the stranger is saying is true. The house is on fire. Okay, let me go check. What are you talking about? The house is on fire. You go downstairs, you see, oh, there is a fire going on. Let me see if I can put it out, or let me run out the back door. Something like that. But that's not how they think about it. That's not what they're thinking about. I don't think that saying you shouldn't listen to strangers is a good thing. There are times when you have to listen to strangers that you don't know these people, but yet they are trying to help you. And you have to find out for yourself if what they're saying is true. That's the thing they keep missing. That's the key. You have to find out if what they're saying is true. That's for everything.
If the voice of strangers was brought to you by someone close, a friend,
wonder how much time,
perhaps even a family member.
Quite a bit, actually.
That's what Jade faces in the following dramatization.
Oh, we're going to get into the Jade and Nita thing here in just a bit. But I have heard, Mary, that they do watch a lot of apostate videos on YouTube pretty frequently. And this is why a lot of people like myself, they don't like to show their face, because many times they'll find out who you are, what your name is by your videos and whatever else, and then find out where your congregation's at. And then they'll send messages to your congregation or local elders, and then they'll be tipped off that you're making apostate literature. I've seen this happen to another YouTuber. I just don't remember what his name is. But yeah, it's happened to him because he revealed his face, which is something I have not done yet. And then his elders got tipped off that he's making apostate videos. So they do watch them. They do. And this is why a lot of people over there in Bethel, they end up leaving the organization because they're having to watch these videos and try to discern what is true and what's not true. Then they have a conflict. They have a what is it? Crisis of conscience. Oh, I hope I'm saying that right. That's the title of the book, right? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Basically, they're having some type of conflict in themselves because they know they're watching the videos. It's not supposed to be true, but yet they're looking it up and researching stuff, and then, yep, they're finding out that a lot of the stuff that the apostates are saying is true. So they have to be very cautious of who they allow to watch the apostate videos. And that's also why a lot of apostate videos get strikes on YouTube, because they try to put it under, like, copyright or something. Like this video, since I'm playing the JW broadcast video, they might try to copyright it or something like that. But truthfully, this is under fair use. And how do I know this? Because I'm actually commentating over it. I'm not just watching the video. I'm not putting it on YouTube for everybody to see. I'm actually giving some type of discussion with it. So this is a review. So you can't copyright. This is under fair use. Watchtower. You guys are a bunch of goofballs up there. But they do definitely watch a lot of the videos that apostates put out. I know that for a fact. I think even there's, I don't know if you guys go on Reddit, but there is an ExJW Reddit. And on there, they talk about how so many people in Bethel are actually leaving. And also, I think they're mentioning something about how whenever they're viewing the apostate videos, they do kind of like keep track of who makes the videos and things like that. So it's not a uncommon thing. But we're about to get into Jade and Nita. I think this is probably the highlight of the JW broadcast. Everybody's super excited to see them again.
How will she learn to reject the voice of strangers in a sensitive situation?
Amen.
It smells wonderful.
Oh wait, I forgot.
You should cook every night.
If you clean every night.
No, we'll take it in turns.
Ta-da!
But this looks amazing.
Thanks. It's a practice for my first guest.
Really? Who?
My mum.
That's wonderful.
We had our first phone call in a year that wasn't a total disaster, so I invited her around tomorrow.
It'll go great.
Hi, Mum.
Hello, love.
Come in. Nice to see you. Nice to see you too. Let me take that.
Oh, thanks, my love.
Fine.
Your roommates, you say they're explorers?
Pioneers.
Explorers.
They preach full-time, but they work part-time.
I see. But you're not...
No. Not yet, anyway.
Jade, love. All this. I see it's made you a better person. Heaven knows I tried. But I miss bits of the old Jade.
Bits? What bits?
Where's the Jade that questioned everything?
Yeah, bring back the old Jade.
So then she pulls out her phone and starts showing me stuff about witnesses.
What kind of stuff?
News stories.
Oh, they don't go over that part. They don't want you to research anything. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. That's what they tell you not to do. It's so funny that they always miss out. They always bleep that part out. They never show what the news articles are saying, none of that stuff. So what are you supposed to do? Basically do the same. Don't look it up. Don't look at it. It's all a lie anyway. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me. One of the 8 governing body members. I'm here to protect you like a loving shepherd. Don't look it up, please. They're pretty much begging everybody not to look it up. They have to know exactly what apostate is saying, so they know to debunk it. So the people that are in Bethel, they know what the apostates are saying, and they try to debunk it as best they can, but really they can't. So, yeah, like you said, looks like they know what they're talking about, which is all of us, the apostates, apparently. They can't debunk it. Otherwise, if they could, then they would just talk about it. I mean, I don't see the reason as to why they can't just say, this is why this is false. But they never do it for obvious reasons. Like, they just don't want anybody to look it up.
Negative and slanted. I tried to change the subject, but she just kept at it.
See you later, girls.
Oh, bye.
Bye, Keisha.
Sorry, I gotta get ready.
Nita's concerned because she's like, oh no, she looked it up. She started looking up information. Oh, you know what she's gonna do, right? She's gonna start ignoring her mom, and stop hanging out with her mom. That's what's gonna happen.
Well, how long are you going to be gone for?
I'll stay another month. I told my daughter it's too hot here. What's happened to me?
Abigail?
Jade girl, how are you?
Been better.
Oh, Nita said that your mother visited.
I hope you don't mind.
No. Mum's driving me mad. It's like it's her hobby to ruin my life.
Oh, she sounds wonderful. Like me when my daughter got baptized.
You opposed your daughter?
Oh, mercy, yes. I love her so much and didn't want to lose her.
But I'm not going anywhere.
Of course not, but a worried mother doesn't know that. Mother, lunch is ready. I got to go, but I have a scripture for you. When you read it, remember, your mum is not the stranger.
John chapter 10 and verse 5. They will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers. Mum is not the stranger. It's what she shares. Reject the voice, not her.
I was wrong. She's not gonna stop hanging out with her mom.
Did you look at those links that I sent you?
Hold up. Okay. Let's think about this now. Reject the voice, but not her. So when someone becomes an apostate, right? Why don't Jehovah's Witnesses just reject the voice, but not the person? Do you know what happens when you leave the organization? You get disfellowshipped or disassociate. You get shunned. Why can't they just reject the voice, but not the person? Am I wrong? Can they not just reject the voice and not the person? Even if somebody is saying all the negative things, can they not just reject the voice and not the person? That's a genuine question. I mean, they just said it here in the broadcast. Like, this is what they put out. So, why don't they just reject the voice and not the person? They don't have to shun the people that leave the organization, but what do? They shun them.
Mum, I want us to get together, but I won't hear anything negative about my beliefs.
Well, perhaps.
Honestly, too, I'm more than certain that there are tons of ExJWs who are like, honestly, I wouldn't mind hanging out with my friends again. If I could just hang out with them, I wouldn't even say anything negative about the organization. I personally wouldn't. Yeah, I have no reason to. I mean, if I can leave and then still be able to hang out with all of them, then that'd be that. But that's not how it works. When you leave, you get shunned.
We just won't talk religion.
It's a deal then?
All right then. I can see I'm not going to get anywhere. So what subject do you want to talk about?
The deal fell apart fast.
Jade, I know we weren't going to talk religion, but I must tell you this one thing that
Mum,
I read.
I thought we weren't going to talk about this. It's getting late. I'm gonna go. Thanks for dinner. I'll call you tomorrow.
Very true, Jerry.
Jade, I got an alert this morning and I'm really
Mum,
worried about this.
No, I don't.
I was sure this wouldn't work. And then it happened.
Jade, I'd like to change our agreement. If I ask you what you believe, you get to answer. Short answers, I won't be converting. It's a deal then.
Yeah, it's a deal.
How wise it was for Jade to distinguish between the dangerous falsehoods about Jehovah's people and the person unwittingly promoting them.
Okay. See, that's the difference there. They they don't mind it whenever it's random people. Like if you met somebody door to door, or if you had a family member that was not in the organization from the beginning and is not disfellowshipped or disassociated, it's fine to still hang out with that person as long as you don't listen to what they say. But when it comes to people who are disassociated or disfellowshipped, those are the people you don't want to listen to at all. Like you can't discern between the voice and the person when it comes to people who are disassociated or disfellowshipped. That's so weird the way that they have it. But they're not even saying there's no rule book that outlines this. You just have to kind of like see the broadcast and then know. Which is weird because technically they'd be showing you both of those two people, your family member who doesn't know anything and the person who's an apostate, in quotations, would be showing you the exact same information. It doesn't matter who it came from. They would both be showing you the exact same information. So why do you treat the people differently? What's the difference? Do you see where I'm getting at here? It's very odd that they do it this way. And there's no rule book on this. They don't say this like outlined like, hey, you can't do this with this person, but you can do this with this person. This is so weird, man. And I noticed this. Obviously, when you're in the organization, you notice this. But you never question it. Because you can't. You never question anything because you think that everything is fine and hunky-dory when in reality it's not.
Jade took a clear stand, but she also patiently showed that she loved her mother. This not only protected Jade from dangerous thinking, but also helped her mother. Unfortunately, as our children grow and attend school, many face a modern scourge: bullying. How can they overcome the fear and negative feelings that being bullied causes? We'll listen to two of our teenagers share what worked for them in this edition of My Teen Life.
Before they begin this segment here, my teen life, this is my first time I've been seeing this. Apparently there's 5 episodes, but they're trying to reach young people again now. Like they're they're trying very hard. And the reason why is because their numbers are dwindling heavily. They need people to stay in the organization, but young people are doing other things with their lives. They're not staying in the organization. They're getting bored of being there, and they also are looking up information on Google, sometimes even TikTok and, other platforms. So they're finding all this information out, and they're ending up outside of the organization. So they're trying very hard to appeal to young people, and they just can't do it. These guys are out of their realm.
My experience with bullying ultimately started in physical education with this kid who shared a locker a few spaces away from me, took that opportunity and started to verbally attack me.
I first experienced bullying in elementary school, but it was little stuff, nothing too big. In middle school is when it was really, really something. It was upsetting that I was being bullied. It made me feel like I was doing something wrong. Why did I have to be the target?
It got really personal. He'd call me names. He would say that, I wasn't good at anything. No one cared about me, that I was dumb, that I was weak. Especially after he found out that I was a witness, then the text just got even more intense.
There was one day specifically that was really bad. It started in a classroom. I heard one girl talk to another girl about me right in front of me, and these were lies. We went to lunch and I was cornered again. Is this how middle school is going to be? I don't have anybody to be with, to hang out with during school, because everybody doesn't like me. I felt no one liked me. It was the worst day ever.
I no longer felt that I was valuable at that point. I was starting to feel more that I was this weak person, that I was defenseless, and that no one cared about me, and that I was worthless to anybody. So hearing that over and over really took a toll on my mental health and my emotional health. I think at my lowest point, after receiving so many of these vicious attacks, I started to have really, really dark feelings, and I realized that I shouldn't let this go any further than it already is. That was the moment when I knew I had to get help.
I told my parents about it, of course, and especially on the worst day, I told them everything. My parents always brought up scriptures, Proverbs 27:12. Anytime I saw the bullies, I would avoid as much as possible. Another thing that I was always doing was praying constantly, always praying. Before school, during school, after school. There are times that I would go into the library and just read books, just stay to myself. During those times, I would also pray to Jehovah, and he was a friend to me. He was somebody that I could speak to on this matter.
I did end up talking to my parents about it. They let me get my side of the story out. They were listening and they wanted to help out, and they made me feel loved. I definitely took this time to reach out to the elders, and they really encouraged me and assured me that I was not only somewhere where I was needed, I was also somewhere where I was wanted. I took some practical steps. I moved my locker. I made sure not to retaliate. Walking away is something very powerful. Retaliation is something that's weak because you're giving in to your emotions and you're just lashing out. Eventually, the bully got suspended, which gave me some peace. He ended up coming back after a week, and he started up again with the attack. I noticed that he hadn't changed at all, but I had. I was much more confident. With that change, I began to fear him less. I wasn't scared of him. I just saw him as this person who wanted attention from me.
All the principles that you read about, whether young people ask, scriptures that you pick out, everything really, really helps. And you can either see the situation die down, or it's not as bad, you can deal with it, or it just stops. And it was so encouraging for me, and it helped strengthen my faith in seeing how Jehovah really is there to help.
Don't keep this to yourself. Don't bottle it up, because that'll make things worse. This is a problem that won't go away because you ignore it. You need to talk to someone. Talk to your parents, talk to your friend, talk to Jehovah, talk to someone in the congregation. Because if you don't know what to do, they'll help you find out what to do, and they'll give you guidance. And you'll be so impressed by how much Jehovah takes care of you, and he'll show you that you are loved by him.
You are loved by Jehovah.
What you said was true, dogs. If truth is the truth, then it should stand up to scrutiny. Yeah, a lot of times, JWs do get bullied more so. I don't remember ever having that experience in my school. But then again, I didn't actually make it super, like, well known. It's not like I came out and said it to everybody in class. It wasn't like a topic. So if I didn't have to say anything, I just didn't say anything. Whenever they were doing anything with type of like celebrations in class, I just didn't participate. Or if I did, basically try to like circumvent it and just stand in the back of the class. So there was no reason to really even say much of anything. There's so many ways you can go about it to where you don't even have to deal with a lot of the stuff out in the open, I guess. But that was just how I handled it. I don't think other people probably had that ability to do that, or the chance to do that. Sometimes schools force you to participate. My school never really did that.
So if you're suffering at the hands of a bully, don't bottle it up. You are not alone. Talk to your parents. It won't go away if you ignore it. But Jehovah can help you face up to bullies, and you can trust Bible principles, because they always work. And they work across a wide range of challenges. In our next video, see how 3 brothers learn to trust completely in Jehovah and his righteous principles when confronted with persecution, immoral influences, and the snare of pride.
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 made a tremendous impression on me. Trust in Jehovah with all your heart. When I was younger, I probably said, all right, let me try it and see if it works.
As much as I loved what I was learning from Jehovah, I was still leaning a lot on my own understanding.
Obviously, when we make decisions in our lives, a spiritual person, they review and think, let's do this Jehovah's way. And that was something that I had lost sight of at that moment in my life.
There was considerable opposition to the work. We expected, when we did street work, we might be picked up and taken to jail. But Jehovah's organization had explained to us how we were to handle it. I do remember when the police finally picked me up and they drove me down to Chicago. It was about an hour's drive. And they asked me, so what did you do wrong? So I had 1 hour to witness to them. And as I recall, I kept track of it and I counted the time too. Things didn't disturb us because we were being trained by Jehovah's organization. We knew what to do. So I ended up in a jail in Chicago for a weekend, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I put up with it. So I was home for a day or two, and then I went back to my assignment, and I kept on working. Left the rest in Jehovah's hands, and he handled it very nicely, whether we were in jail or whether we were not.
Eventually, I stumbled upon the punk rock anarchist scene, and this really called out to me because here I can be myself, I can establish my own standards, but that scene eventually led me down to a very dark path of immorality, drug abuse, drunkenness, and a lot of violence. I felt lonely, I felt betrayed, I felt nothing made sense. I remember thinking back on when I was learning about Jehovah and how simple things were. I decided to give Jehovah another shot. Reading Matthew 16:24 hit me really hard, where it says that to disown yourself. Because I knew that scripture, but I still haven't really focused on what it meant for me. I knew I had to let go of certain parts of my personality, of my old lifestyle. Never really given Jehovah a complete fair chance. And so I started applying more fully the principles I found, started trusting Jehovah more. Very quickly things started falling into place. The determination that I had to serve him, the changes that I needed to make, changes that I never thought I could.
I felt that spiritual progress was appointments and assignments. I think pride got the best of me there. Very shortly after we got to the congregation in Brooklyn, I'm out in service with the coordinator, and he says to me, "The letter came back and you weren't recommended as a servant. Do you know what happened?" So I said, "Well, I think those brothers have some problems over there." And he said, Whoa. Stop for a second here. You don't need to tell me anything negative about the brothers in that hall. Focus on what you need to do, and Jehovah will take care of the rest of it." It really did feel like Jehovah was just saying, "Okay, stop. Right now, you need to focus on you." And that really just allowed me to relax and focus on what was really a lot more important than whether I had a certain position in Jehovah's organization. The humility and the patience and the love and the adjustments that I needed to make, being a more obedient servant of Jehovah, those were the things that were so important that I had forgotten about for a while.
All the time that I spent pursuing my own interests, it always led to disappointment. And now that I've learned about Jehovah and living by his principles, I have been having the time of my life. To know that Jehovah just simply wants to make me the best version of me and teach me to enhance my personality and to become better, that really endeared me to Jehovah.
Jehovah really cared about me enough to mold my thinking. It was kind of like my life was back into focus, and I was able to just relax and serve Jehovah happily. And then, of course, the blessings started really pouring in after that.
Everything I've done connected with the truth, I have enjoyed every speck of it. You might have some great idea, but I found out you do things Jehovah's way, and the end result is nothing but good.
Isn't it wonderful?
It kind of depends on who you ask there. A lot of people have been doing things Jehovah's way for a long time, and then the end result, they didn't really do anything. Like, they didn't get anything out of it. It's really depends on who you ask there. Yeah, I guess my JW life growing up in it wasn't as strict. I didn't do anything bad, but I was in a basically single parent household when it came to Jehovah's Witnesses, and it was only my mother who was Jehovah's Witness. So since my dad wasn't taking seriously, I was just like, well, I mean, I'll just keep doing it. But I didn't really get too far. I didn't make it a ministerial servant. I was really close to it, but then I just stopped. That was around the time that I went to another congregation, and then started fading. So that's what happened with me.
Much that he takes the time to mold our thinking and help us be the best possible version of ourselves. And what a life lesson from Brother Adams. Do things Jehovah's way, and the end result will be nothing but good. With success like that, why would we try any other way? Or, as this month's music video asks, to whom could I go away? Enjoy this faith-strengthening original song.
This is a song? Oh no. Yeah, we're not going to listen to a song. Let's see here. Let's go past this. Is this still the song? Yep, it's still the song. Man, that's a pretty long song, right? I think this is the end. Yep.
Certainly, that's how we all feel. Never do we want to stray from the great shepherd Jesus Christ as he leads us through the end of this troubled system of things. May this song encourage us to stick close to Jehovah's organization no matter what befalls us. For imperfect humans, unity rarely comes easily. In our following video, please note how the governing body has always worked to maintain unity in behalf of the worldwide brotherhood.
This is 1976.
I've had an illness, but I'm getting along all right. There's a little tumor here in the brain, which the doctors are treating. And whatever comes, one way or the other, but it has been wonderful to work with you all these years, and I enjoyed it tremendously. And I'm very grateful to Jehovah I could come to this meeting and be with you.
Very true, Mary. Very true. Preserves unity. Where's Victor Raymond Franz?
Brother Noor had an exceptional gift for organizing the kingdom work. That set the stage for the amazing growth that the organization experienced during the closing decades of the 20th century.
Nathan Noor died on June 8, 1977. Note what Brother Albert Schroeder, a fellow member of the governing body, wrote about him. As the Society's principal administrator, there have come to be over 90 branches. Brother Noor has proved to be the right theocratic entrepreneur for this period of Jehovah's Kingdom work.
Brother Noor helped to clarify the role of the governing body and its committees. Headquarters representatives were sent out to various branches. Branches were better organized. Bodies of elders were appointed in various congregations. Training programs were instituted. Schools were established.
Due to the organizational growth, the number of conventions being held worldwide now numbered into the hundreds. And the governing body members wanted to be present at as many of those conventions as possible. For example, at the 1969 Peace on Earth International Convention, a governing body member would fly to the convention city for the opening day, catch a flight to another convention city, and then return to the original city so that he could speak on the closing day.
In the 1970s and 80s, many existing branches with printing and shipping capabilities needed to expand to ensure that the worldwide supply of spiritual food would flow uninterrupted, no matter what may happen on the world scene. At times, there were more than 20 branch construction or expansion projects going on simultaneously, and the governing body was very interested in each one and eager to dedicate the new facilities once completed.
For me, it was always very encouraging to have contact to the brothers of the governing body, to see their great zeal and their loving interest in the brothers behind the Iron Curtain. 1977, something outstanding happened. In 1977, it was possible for brothers Jerez, Franz and Sidlik to visit the brothers in Poland. So that was the first time that members of the governing body could visit the country behind the Iron Curtain. They spoke to many overseers, pioneers, and long-time witnesses. That was, of course, a wonderful experience.
1 year after this visit, Brother Jairus, along with Brother Henschel, were able to get an appointment with government officials to promote a more tolerant attitude of Jehovah's organization and the work that Jehovah's Witnesses were doing in Eastern Europe, and especially in Poland. Now, mind you, this was all taking place some 10 years prior to the fall of communism in Eastern Europe.
They took various steps to meet with the local brothers in person. And Brother Barry of the governing body had the opportunity to hold a secret meeting in the city of Leningrad with Brother Koze, who was responsible for the activity in the territory. Brother Koze said that he received tremendous encouragement from that discussion, from the conversation with Brother Barry. And it was interesting that it wasn't until after that meeting that Brother Koze found out that he had been talking to a member of the governing body.
The brothers in Eastern Europe really needed help to resist decades of satanic efforts to destroy their faith in Jehovah.
I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead here. A lot of this seems like it's just more so about what they did in the past.
This day.
But there's not too much to comment on.
What striking evidence of unity our conventions provide. While the world around them roiled with ethnic strife, hatred, and violence, our brothers enjoyed a peaceful convention that rightly impressed the authorities. Our faith in
Yeah,
the
you're right, Mary.
Shepherd and his father
It was
surely is
mainly
being
about the
rewarded
internal
now,
issues.
and will be even more abundantly rewarded in the future. Perhaps like many, you're still talking about last year's drama, Daniel, A Lifetime of Faith.
I didn't watch that one.
What moving lessons and awesome depictions of visions and events from his life. Would you like to take a look behind the scenes and see what went into making it? Let's enjoy a tour of some of the work that helped bring this account to life.
Let's see where all that money went.
The Bible book of Daniel is filled with imagery, visions, amazing scenery, and architecture.
I did not watch this one. Have to go now. Alrighty, no problem, dogs. Thank you so much for hanging out and stopping by.
The team that made Daniel, A Lifetime of Faith, had to portray these amazing things on film. How did they do it? Early concept art was made to help in the development of the many visual effects scenes. The architecture and aesthetics of Babylon were quite different from what the Israelites were used to. The sets needed to be designed in a way that helped convey what it was like being captured. And brought to a foreign land. The production design and sets and props departments built 360-degree sets, which made for an immersive environment.
All the other wise men are able.
Man, that is a ton of just finances right there.
But you're able to do so.
Many costumes and props were carefully handmade for the production. Spearheads were hand-forged. Most of the filming was done at Mount Ebo Studios in Brewster, New York. Some additional scenes were filmed in nearby locations.
Oh, you
and in
watched it?
Florida.
You need to rest.
Usually I do watch all of them.
Several miniature sets
Sometimes
were
there's
built,
things to comment on.
including a ziggurat. And then actors were filmed in front of a green screen and inserted into the final shots. As filming was completed, scenes were edited together, and the visual effects team went to work on many specialized shots. Digital models of people and animals were animated and combined with footage of real environments to make scenes that would have been impossible to film otherwise. For example, a digital model was made of the immense image in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. The team researched the characteristics of the actual materials described in the scriptures, such as metals and rocks, so that when the image falls, it appears realistic and believable. Just look at the results of thousands of hours spent modeling, animating, simulating, rendering, and compositing.
They're really kicking it up with the special effects now.
Music and sound effects add the final touches. What do you see? Jehovah asked the prophet Amos. What Amos saw taught him important lessons. In the drama, Daniel, A Lifetime of Faith, what did you see? And more importantly, what did you learn?
What did you see? Hours of hard work? Dramatic visual effects? Bible characters brought to life on screen? Isn't it amazing how they all combine to make what happened thousands of years ago seem so real, so vivid, and faith-strengthening? Now, let's enjoy this month's postcard as together we climb the peaks of Switzerland. About 70% of Switzerland is covered by mountains. Congregations, as well as 39 groups or
Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop right there then. I think that pretty much covers like everything that I wanted to talk about. I believe like the beginning, maybe about half of this was most of the information that I wanted to cover, but then the other half was just everything else, talking about different things in organization, but I didn't have too much to comment on. Let's see. I really do think I want to watch that Daniel movie though. Maybe I'll try to make time for that, see if I can go ahead and watch that. But I do appreciate everybody hanging out and stopping by. Let's see here. So if you guys... Okay, let's see. I haven't already done so. I really do appreciate if you leave a like on the video. It really does help other people discover the channel and also discover the videos too. Be greatly appreciated. But I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. It's about 12 o'clock on the dot, so that's great. Thanks for hanging out, Mark. Thank you so much. Mary, Dogs is gone. Jerry, if you're still there. Thank you, everybody. Really do appreciate it.